And let me say tonight that this victory here is the beginning of the end for Donald Trump.
So many of you chose to meet a new era of challenge with a new generation of leadership. So many of you decided that a middle-class mayor and a veteran from the industrial Midwest was the right choice to take on this president, not in spite of that experience, but because of it.
Tonight is about grit, and my story, like so many of yours, is one of resilience. I announced my candidacy in the middle of a Minnesota blizzard, and there were a lot of people that predicted I wouldn't even get through that speech.
Those were just some of the post-election messages from New Hampshire primary winner Bernie Sanders and the other two leading vote getters, former Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Senator Amy Klobuchar. Now, they finished in second and third place, respectively. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe has been covering the New Hampshire primary. He joins me now this morning from Manchester. Let us dig into it, Ed. So not a whole lot of surprises here, at least based on the polling that we were seeing ahead of the primary. But what did we learn from last night's outcome?
We learned a few things. First of all, turnout was slightly better than 4 years ago, but not as great as Democrats would have liked. We learned that despite winning overwhelmingly 4 years ago, Bernie Sanders had some stiff competition last night and was not able to repeat the dominance that he had over this primary 4 years ago. And yet, he is the first non-president to win consecutive New Hampshire primaries in either party. So he has that going for him. And just this surge by Amy Klobuchar was driven by people, and there were a lot of them, who couldn't make up their minds until just the last few days. 50% of voters said they had made up their mind in just the last few days. Most of them went to Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, which shows you that that question about electability, who is the best person to defeat the president, is still weighing on the minds of Democrats, or at least it was here in New Hampshire, and likely will be now in the coming weeks in the next few contests. And it's telling that the first words out of the senator's mouth last night were, "I'm Amy Klobuchar, and I will beat Donald Trump." That shows you how critical it is to anyone who's trying to win over Democrats right now.
So for Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, I mean, can we consider them front runners then? Does this, like winning, getting to this point in New Hampshire, does this give them sort of official front runner status?
Well, it gives them some street cred, that's for sure. If you look at the most important tally that is ongoing, it's the delegate count. And at this point, Mayor Buttigieg, given his performance in Iowa and New Hampshire, has amassed the most, followed by Senator Sanders. Those two guys essentially are your front runners at this point. Everybody else is in their wake. And we'll see now in Nevada, in South Carolina, and especially on March 3rd, when 14 states are up for grabs, whether or not they continue to hold on to a majority of the delegates or whether they get spread even further across the other candidates who are running. And, of course, former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg, who's also in the race and planning to contest those 14 contests in March.
And then we have Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden. They got single digits, right, in New Hampshire. So they're moving forward. Joe Biden has sort of already tried to sort of argue that, don't expect much from New Hampshire, but you're really going to see me shine in South Carolina and Nevada. And, I think that moving forward, it may be a bumpier ride, the next two states, for Sanders and Buttigieg. But what's kind of the plan to stay top of mind and still be considered a contender for Biden and for Elizabeth Warren?
For Biden, he has essentially moved the goalposts. If New Hampshire used to be the measure of whether or not you could win the nomination, he's now arguing that this race really won't be decided, and that conversation can't happen until states with far more diverse populations get a say. Nevada, of course, with its growing Latino and Asian immigrant population. South Carolina, of course, with African-American voters. He's enjoyed something like a 40 or 45-point lead in polls most of the past year. In South Carolina, that's been cut in half in just the last few days, so it'll be a dogfight for him down there as Bernie Sanders, Tom Steyer, and now likely Buttigieg or Klobuchar, or both of them, try to nip on his heels and perhaps surpass him. In Nevada, his team believes that he will do well with retirees who live out there, with, again, Latino immigrant and Latino families that live and work in the Las Vegas area especially. But it's really hard to ask voters to ignore what's gone on over the last week or so as you make the argument that you're best equipped to defeat President Trump. He has been saying, the former vice president, that he'll beat the president like a drum. Let's just say there were 2 drumsticks used on him last night as he placed 5th. As for Senator Warren, it's very unclear where exactly she expects to find a base of support moving forward. This was supposed to be the tailor-made contest for her. She's from just about 40 miles south of here, well known to New Hampshire, as is Bernie Sanders, given that they're neighbors. Like-minded, sort of, liberal, intellectual, academic New England Democrats all live across this state, and yet was able to only place 4th. Her campaign released a lengthy 2,000-word memo yesterday outlining the theory that Mayor Buttigieg will hit a ceiling, Senator Sanders will hit a ceiling when it comes to races across the country. Because remember, we're going now into states like California, Colorado, Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, Minnesota, North Carolina, Massachusetts, her home state. Those have broader appeal, broader electorates, more mainstream, and a lot of independent voters. And her argument is that she'll be better equipped to unify the party and amass delegates. If she doesn't do well, though, in Nevada and South Carolina, don't be surprised if she pulls out the rug and ends it, because would you really want to go home to your home state on Super Tuesday and not win? Kamala Harris made that calculation already. That's why she's out. Cory Booker made that calculation. That's why he's out. We'll see if Warren survives the month.
Yeah. All right. Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much, Ed.
Take care.